Hello there, Pattaya. It's Dr. Ian, and tonight I'm at Dicey Riley's. Not only am I at Dicey Riley's, but with me is my partner in crime, the Jock, Paul.
Good evening, Doc. How are you? Well, as always.
Absolutely. So, now you know, you've got the channel right, everything. This is the world-famous Doc and Jock show. Now, we actually do interview interesting people. We couldn't find any, so we're going to put up with this guy. How's the weather up there? Guys, how tall are you?
It's not bad. It's raining. You'll get it in a few minutes. Yeah.
Right. This is Matthew Ferguson Stewart. Now, I don't really believe that Scotsmen have hyphenated surnames. Explain yourself.
Well, look, I'm born in Australia, 5th generation Australian, but definitely of Scottish ancestry.
I see. So you've got the shackle marks on the ankles?
Yeah. Actually, my family were free settlers, believe it or not, although many Australians are proud of their convict heritage. But yeah, Australian born, but actually intensely proud of my Scottish heritage.
Aaron, you should be too, lad.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to bring up subtitles now that you do that. All right, now, Matthew, you're the brand ambassador for which company?
So for Glen single malt whiskey, which is part of William Grant and Sons.
Okay, all right. Now, we're here for a... It's very interesting on the poster because I think it says a tasting dinner, because it's like 5 courses of great whiskey, or 4 or 5, right?
But apparently there's no food.
Well, that's what I mean. But, you know, it's all right. It's 5 courses. Why not, right? All right. So what can people expect tonight? What are you showcasing?
Well, I'm going to take them through a little bit of the history of Glenfiddich, and then we're going to taste some whiskey. I mean, that's what people want, right? And we're going to talk about how the whiskey tastes, why it tastes that way. We're going to learn a bit. We're going to enjoy a bit. Okay. Have some fun.
Are you going to be telling us? Sorry, Doc, we're going to be talking about that to people a little bit later. So give us an idea of why it tastes the way it does. Meaning, the different areas or whatever.
Look, one of the notes that many Glenfiddich whiskies are famous for is a light fruity note, like pear or apple. And that comes from the fact that we do a long fermentation. That's a way in which we invest extra time and therefore extra money to create our signature flavour. I'll never stand up and say ours is the best whiskey, but I will stand up and say we try very hard to make a whiskey of superb quality, and we are the biggest selling single malt in the world, and we are the most awarded single malt in the world.
Now, you mentioned the fact that the whiskey has to taste the same, so that people know that if they're going to be getting a 12-year-old, it tastes like that.
Right.
Now, a little question for you.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that the Scotch tastes the same?
So for a particular variant, such as the 12-year-old, we want it to be a consistent product. Right. Look, there's many ways in which we do that. The most important person involved in that is the person we call our malt master, and his name is Brian Kinsman. And he has a job that's probably even cooler than mine. It's his job to nose many different whiskies and taste a few here and there, I guess, and put them together to create our 12 years old.
And I believe that a fella comes up who is called each year called the head noser. Now that's what I get told when I was there at the distillery. The head noser comes along, they open the cask, and he's the guy who can say, yes, put that with that, and we should get it right.
Yeah, that is Brian Kinsman. The head noser is kind of an unofficial title. His official title is malt master. So, yeah.
I don't know why he's a wine lover, right? This is all pretense. He doesn't know the first thing about whiskey, right?
It's nothing to do... Let me assure you that I came from the north of Scotland.
Yes, I know.
And
you left there at the age of 2.
14, I was already drinking Scotch. You go straight from mother's milk to the bottle. A lovely little story. My father witnessed a fellow being electrocuted and died.
This is a lovely story.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
He came home all white and grey and all shaking. And my mother, being a good Scottish woman, said, Alan, go and sit in the chair and I'll get you a wee dram. So he leaned back in the chair, and all of a sudden he lifts his head and says, not the Glenfiddich. You don't use Glenfiddich for medicinal purposes.
It's the drunken pleasure. Right, so tonight, how many whiskies you're showing us, and what are the differences with those?
We're showcasing the 12, the 15, and the 18 years old.
Okay.
Right? So the differences can become quite complex. But basically, our 12 is a fairly light fruity dram, very approachable, the biggest selling whiskey in the world. Okay. When we go to the 15, we use some different kinds of cask for that. It's got a much more richer flavour and a much more full body. And then we're going to go on to the 18, the oldest of the whiskies we're having tonight, and which is a bit more like our 12 in style, but with that extra 6 years of aging, it's got a lot more complexity, a lot more character and flavour that I think people will love. Yeah,
one of the things I had always thought, 18-year-old is better than 12, etc. So why don't I buy a bottle of U-Butte, ordinary Glenfiddich, and store it for the next 18 years? But that doesn't work, does it?
No, because maturation happens inside the cask. So a 12-year-old whiskey in the bottle is a 12-year-old whiskey until the end of time. It can change very, very slowly in the bottle, but it's not the same as the aging in the cask. So a 12-year-old will never become an 18-year-old once bottled.
How the hell do you manage to keep a bottle for 6 years? Come on.
It's like my wine cellar. Right. They've never stayed long enough to be laid down.
It's just the space. Yes. Yes. All right. One question I'd like to ask you as a brand ambassador, because obviously the idea is that you're trying to educate people, impart knowledge, and you're showing them the portfolio of Glenfiddich. When people say to you, how should it be drank? What advice would you give them? Because I get different answers for this.
Sure. Take the cork out of the bottle first.
Look, I would say to people, if you are enjoying a great whiskey and you're drinking it a particular way, keep doing that. Okay. If you want to know how I drink it, I tend to have it neat. Okay. So I would never have it with a sweet mixer, because that's going to completely hide the flavour. And if you're spending money on a great single malt, you're there for the flavour. Yeah. Ice will also tend to hide some aroma and flavour, because as things get colder, they lose aroma and flavour. A lot of people like their dram with a dash of water. They say it opens up the whiskey a little bit.
That's what I was told at the distillery. You sort of take the glass and you wave it under the water.
Exactly, and a lot of people do that, and I'm actually okay with that. I think that's a great way to drink whiskey. Personally, I prefer it neat.
Okay, and would that be the same for the 12, 15 and the 18? You would drink them all neat?
Absolutely. I think the older a whiskey gets, the more subtle and complex the flavours can be. So I think it becomes more important to have it either just neat or with a little bit of water rather than ice. You know, a younger whiskey can hold up to a bit of ice quite well and can be quite enjoyable as a refreshing drink. The older it gets, the more you actually want to spend time savouring it. So you want all that aroma and flavour.
All right. Well, I have to say, I'm really looking forward to this. I think I've only ever tried your standard, and I'm sure that's probably not the word I should use, but the one that's famous all over the world, the 12-year-old. But it is interesting. One of my favourite whiskies is a 10-year-old, but the 12-year-old is the one I adore. But the 18, I'm not so keen on. So you would think that, because it's more expensive, it's going to be better. But I just recently tried a whiskey that I don't like, but I tried the 12-year-old, and it was fantastic. I won't mention it out of politeness, but it was fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the difference between the three that you're going to present tonight.
Yeah, and look, I would say, just because a whiskey is older doesn't mean it is better. Just because it is more expensive doesn't mean it's better. Okay. The best whiskey is the one you like the most. Okay. And I'm very firm on
that. No jokes about older and better and about the girls in Pattaya. I can see I'm sorry. I should have warned you beforehand. This is what he's like,
Well, as they say, you're only as old as the woman you feel.
I've heard that before, yeah.
Now, across the little creek from Glenfiddich is the Balvenie. Same water, like Bourbon and Branch.
He might slap you at this point.
No, because
no, it's okay. Balvenie is our other distillery. We actually own Balvenie as well. So.
Yeah, that's good.
And they do their own peat malting. Yes, it's quite fantastic, the whole thing. And for me, the Balvenie beats Glenfiddich. Right. But to find Balvenie outside of Scotland is difficult. So if I'm drinking Scotch, I do drink Glenfiddich.
Okay, but that would be the 12-year-olds.
Whatever they've got.
Oh, look, the Balvenie's a magnificent whiskey, absolutely. You may have had a lot of trouble finding it outside of Scotland in the past, but you'll start to see more and more of it in Southeast Asia.
Oh, so you are bringing it in by the bucketful?
It's already here, not by the bucketful. So Glenfiddich is the world's biggest selling single malt, and if a bar has whiskey in it, there's a very good chance you'll find Glenfiddich there. Yes. We don't make as much Balvenie, and we never will. No. It will be available, but you'll kind of have to look for it.
And at a premium.
It is more expensive generally, yeah. Yeah, it's there's less of it. It commands a higher price.
Well, I'd just like to mention, I had a quick word with Matthew before we went on camera, and we were talking about the single malt, the awards, the worldwide award, which has just been awarded to a Japanese whiskey, and previously it was a Tasmanian one. And I wasn't trying to challenge you, but you came back with a very good thing, that is based on one man's idea, his
Correct.
thoughts.
And he's a well-known man and well-respected man. He tastes a lot of whiskies, for sure. He does not taste them blind. He knows what he's tasting when he drinks it. And it really is that, just one man's opinion. Yeah. And a lot of people may agree with him, but I know a lot of people also disagree with him.
So this is the Robert Parker of
He kind of
Scotch.
is the Robert Parker of Scotch, yeah.
Well, it's interesting, and well, from the figures that you were saying about it's the best, Glenfiddich is the best-selling one in the world, it looks like they were wrong and you're right, hopefully.
You know, I love single malt whiskey. I drink a lot of different single malt whiskies. I always come back to Glenfiddich because it is an exceptionally well-made dram. It's
that and the fact he gets it for free.
That and I do get it for free. Yeah.
Oh well. Well, talking about a drink, I think we'll have a dram. We'll wind up the interview. But thanks very much for the invitation. It's great to see events like this in Pattaya. I know it happens in Bangkok quite a lot, but it's good. And when I posted this today on Facebook, the amount of people that said, "Oh, I wish I was in Pattaya this weekend," or whatever. So it just shows you, and it's not just the Brits and the Europeans. Thais, of course, love the drop of the dram as well, don't they?
Yeah. And look, I first came to Pattaya about 20 years ago. Exactly 20 years ago, 1994. It's changed a lot, but it's still a fantastic place, and I'm very happy to be here.
And of course, since you're the brand ambassador for Glenfiddich, you have to taste the single malt that comes out of Thailand.
Which is what?
Lao Khao. Have you ever had Lao Khao?
I've not had that one. I've had a few Thai whiskies.
It's not a whiskey. This is a rice spirit, and it's, oh God, it's rough. Oh, you double F, rough.
Yeah, but you can run your motorbike on it. It's okay, right?
Great. Okay.
All right. Matthew, thank you very much indeed for the interview, and thank you for bringing these good scotches here. Next time, bring some Balvenie, all right?
Okay. We'll see what we can do. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you again. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.